Hey friends, what's going on? This is another one with Fun with Azure. This is Synapse Studio part 21 and Purview part 4. So we're going to talk basically about Purview integration into Synapse Studio. So what I have prepared for is basically setting up a scan for Azure SQL source, going through the process, the wizard, all the configurations that are needed. And I think that's definitely going to helpful. Obviously there's many sources that can be integrated, so conceptually this is kind of the same for all of them, but there's going to be different pieces to each source, but that should give you a good start on this. And then we also have some learning resources. Keep in mind this is all about the population of a data map, right, which is a key piece of the Microsoft Purview architecture. This is where the data assets, the metadata, the lineage, the classification of the data. Is it sensitive data? What type of code is it, and etc. Goes in, and it could even be mapped to a business glossary if need be, and it's all based on Apache Atlas, right? So maybe you're familiar with that. And just for our developers also, this is entirely exposed via APIs, which is quite interesting from a integration perspective. And then of course the regular source system scans that allow us to pull all this data in, to share it out through those different applications, all under one roof with Microsoft Purview. So this is that. On the topic of learning resources or links, I already have in my last video on the channel Fun with Azure, right? When you search for that, there's a Synapse Studio part 20 out there, and in the comments I already put those links in there. Most of those are related to what I have out there for the part 3, right? For Purview, but some of it is also definitely applicable for this one, and I'm gonna add them more and more as we move forward. Those links, just one more sentence, those links cover this in more detail, but you can definitely spend some time on this to go over those and further deepen your knowledge. Okay, so let me start with going to Purview, and so this is Purview, right? We're in the data catalog. Here's where the user would typically search for his items, right? We see we have 2 sources. We have 41 data assets, right? And then let's go here to the data catalog, which is basically, that's the data map. We were just on the data catalog. So this is the item that we ingest the data to, right? Just for purposes of being complete here, right? We have data share, and then we have data estate insights, we have data policy and management. I think it's, sooner or later we're gonna get to those different items again, so it's good to memorize them. It's also, when I think of this, Purview is still like a developing product, so you may see changes over here with the naming, with the sequence, even complete new things popping up eventually. We'll see. All right, so let's go to data map, and then this is how I set this up here, right? We have a Purview account alarm, and I would this is just sort of a sample, but this could be the organization's name, your company's name, and then finance, marketing, and the different business units or departments, or whatever you feel like is an appropriate way of laying this out. I definitely see a layout over these different departments, and I also see a layout that is more around business processes, right? So it doesn't have to be like this, but I saw this being applied. So then underneath finance, right, the finance, this is actually a collection, right? So want to make sure we clear on this. So a collection is basically a organizational tool to structure this and to also apply access to consumers, right? You may have data consumers that you want to be able for them to see everything underneath marketing, but not being able to see the stuff in finance, and vice versa, right? So then work with collections to set up a proper security infrastructure there. Okay, so once we have the finance underneath, there's like an Azure storage source container, if you will, and there's nothing in here in actual data lakes, right? And then because I know because we didn't set up a scan for this, right? But then the next one, we definitely have scans, actually multiple. So if I go view details, right, click on view details, I see I have scans, I have discovered assets, okay, and I have a bunch of information here. And the link, sorry, let me head back here by clicking on that link on that navigation map. I can actually go back, and then these are the scans set up under that data source, and those are actually two scans for two different databases, right? When I go into the second link of the scans and hit that edit scan, then I see what database this actually pulls from, right? And we see here the name is MyTestDB in my case, but in your case, obviously, it could be completely different. So this is what we're going to look at when we set up a new one, right? And we're going to do that right away. So, there's like a name, a connection, and then we have an endpoint, obviously, and database name, credential. And let's have a look at this on our new database. So let me cancel out of that one. And I did actually set up, let me go back to the source. And before we continue here with the setup, let me go back to Azure real quick. I did actually set up a third test database, an Adventure Works database. Let me go there real quick to get this going. Okay, Purview. I go here. So when I sort by type, I can easily see my database here. And then let me see, can I connect? Yeah, I can successfully connect. This is good. And then select start from, and I have the Adventure Works here, right? So we run that. Okay, so I see data back there. So this is working, and this is basically the sample database, which is currently not added to Purview, right? So that's what we're going to go through. So I'm gonna see say new scan, and just before we go through here, right? So before we went view details, right? We could obviously delete this, what we don't want to do for sure, and then here we could edit, right? This edit relates to the source. The source type, because in contrast to view details, this relates to the details, and then we can modify the details, right? Like the scans. So let me go to new scan, and then call that third DB. Again, naming conventions. That definitely is a topic on its own. I just don't want to spend a whole lot of time with that in those videos, but definitely not unimportant, right? When it comes to proper maintenance and administration, just want to be clear on that. So I did, when you go through those, so we definitely use the integration runtime here. So I did not set up a self-hosted runtime for that. Keep in mind a self-hosted runtime, and I'm covering this more later when we talk about the authentication methods. For now, we're not using a self-hosted runtime. Okay, so Azure subscription, And then so we have the database already, and because it knew all the databases in my subscription, I could just choose it from here. So if I added another one, that would appear here as well, provided it's in my Azure subscription. And then here I have the credentials, and this is kind of important, but there's a bunch of other options, right? So for now, I'm gonna go with the MSI, basically the recommended option, or the default option. I'm careful with the recommended option, but let's just go with that. And then I also want to have my lineage extraction enabled, right? Because I want to know, what tables are included in stored procedures, and what jobs would potentially break if I change the column name in a table, right? So that I see the impact of this, right? So that's that. And then I want to have it in the finance collection. So we only have, we have two collections, right? But remember, when I initiated the scan, I said new, and I was already in the finance collection, so that's why it's pre-selected here. Okay, so if I do test connection, let's see if that works, and magically it does not. And obviously I did work on this already, but I wanted to give you sort of the experience that when I went through, that's kind of what I saw, and then what I did to fix it, to make the scan possible. Now the techniques that I show you make it work for a conceptual understanding, but I would not recommend doing this that way in production. For that, we definitely need to get a bit more into making this a secure connection and everything, but I did not spend that time on it yet. So but what I did to prevent this one here, so obviously the problem here is, a scan is a job that wants to access a database, right? And it wants to access the metadata. And in SQL Server, I'm not 100% sure how Purview does it in terms of collecting this data, but it uses likely system view and sys objects and sys columns and the metadata tables of SQL Server to basically obtain information. And to do so, you got to have the permissions to do it, right? You don't have an account, you cannot get in. So what we need to do is basically grant Purview permissions to access this information, right? And by using the identity name here, what I'm picking up, and let me head over to another Azure sign in here. We basically just need to give the Purview account permissions on that server, and I say specifically server. Now obviously, for those of you with a heavy security background, you're not going to be happy with this, and I completely agree, right? But this is just for demo purposes here to get this to work. Now see here, now I browse to the server just real quick, and under Azure Active Directory, I basically say I did add an admin. I think that's what I did click on, and then I just copy and paste the Purview account LARM. That's the name of my account, my Purview account. And then also very important, you don't forget, hit the save button, right? If you browse away without the save button, then this change is not going to be there for longer. Okay, so this saved. So now let's go back and see if this actually did work, and allowed us then to connect, and it should for sure, but so we need to see. So you can see it's successful. So now that now that basically Purview is the admin on that SQL server. The Purview identity is the admin on that SQL server. It can do pretty much everything, right? Which in normal circumstances is not what we want, right? So normally we want to have this limited in some shape or form. And one way of doing this is basically granting a specific account and use that in conjunction with SQL Auth. I think that's what I would prefer, but unfortunately, then you need to have a key vault, and there's more setup work than needed. I'm gonna do some key work as well, but more in the context of using it within Synapse Studio. But so this gets us going here. So now we still have that lineage extraction down there, and obviously I wanted to have this enabled. So there's two bullets that are mentioned here. One, I think we just took care, right? DB owner role, because the DB owner role is included in the admin role, so that's no problem there. But see, the second one is talking about a create master key, okay? And obviously I haven't created a create master key yet, but we'll need to see what, you know, apparently we can connect, so, you know, apparently we don't need that. I don't know. So this seems to be a bit, at this stage in the process, this is a bit confusing, to be honest, right? And then we have the finance here. So okay, so let's continue and you know, let's see what's coming up. So now we have basically access, right? We were able to connect. We see all the tables, which is good. And obviously we could limit some of the tables, right? And make sure we only scan, like, you know, certain schemas or certain types of tables, you name it. But this is, you know, when you have a large system, and, you know, I've been working on source systems with multiple thousand tables. You got to think about this before, and, you know, if you want to really scan the entire system, yeah, that's gonna run for a while. So just make sure you plan ahead. Okay, so in my case, I have a small system here. I take all the tables, and then we have the scan rule set. There's a default one and there's a custom one. So I'm using the default one, but just in case you want to do that a bit more advanced, you can generate your own. Basically by creating a new scan rule set and set this up. Let me really quickly show you the default one and what this is, and, you know, why do you even care. So, you know, as the scanning takes place, obviously this is a great opportunity also for classifications and help you identifying, you know, any known data structures, right? And also help you identify potentially data that, you know, you want to be careful with, sensitive data, PII data. When I look at this here, passport numbers, you know, a credit card, driver license. So that's definitely something we want to be a bit careful. Identity card number, etc., etc. So this type of information, you know, Purview basically looks for this as part of the scan and, you know, flags the columns with a classification label, so that you know, that, hey, this looks potentially like this and that, and then you can have a look and think about, you know, what you want to do with this down the road. So chief security officers definitely like these types of information, because, you know, not everyone knows what data is in every source of a company. That's kind of my experience. There's actually a lot of data somewhere and nobody knows what it's really about. And, you know, with those classification rules, they kind of your little agents, automatic agents to help you finding those, right? So think about it and play with this a bit further. I'm going to go with the defaults here, but I think your data SME is well advised to look into this a bit more into detail. And then, so defaults are here, and you can see here, right, system default. So let me continue. Now, actually, only, you know, in the production scenario, you would reoccurring, you know, would it probably do once a week. I think there's sometimes it's also possible to do it for some sources. It's also possible to do it daily or nightly, but you know, it all comes with cost, right? So, you know, consider a scan like a resource that, you know, needs compute and memory, and obviously this is what you're gonna pay for. Okay, so scan a trigger and continue, and then it shows you a couple of information here, and looks all dandy, right? Credentials, scope, right? Lineage extraction is on, remember, right? We enable this one, so that looks all dandy. So we hit that run and scan button, and hopefully it's gone flying and gives us some results soon. So it says review your scan before it runs. And for some reason, close the dialog. Let me see where it is. Okay, that's interesting. A few details, remember? So we have a third scan. Okay, see here, this is, so it closed the dialog on me, but here it's actually, there is a dialog here now, and it's scanned, right? It says scanned. Now, there is one little gotcha that that apparently I did add in prior videos. Just so you know, if you do this on your side, I did actually that create master key. I expected this to still be added, but apparently I did already add this, so I already created a master key. If you don't have a master key, and that was mentioned in that dialog earlier, right, under the lineage enablement, right, it would actually not work. So this is now running, right, and well, it's in progress, right? This can take a bit. So I would say at this stage, you know, this concludes that video, and maybe I can spend like 2-3 minutes on our next video to go over this, and then I can actually show you how the whole thing worked. But yeah, keep in mind two things that when I went through this was really make sure that the Purview account is part of your source. There must be some shape or form that allows Purview to authenticate. That's one, and then the other one was that secret, that new secret that needs to be created. Okay, so hope that was helpful, and you know, after the scan completes, then we basically have the data insights populated, right? And that's what we talked about the other day. Just real quick, and once we have that populated here, then we can go about curating, making sure that we share the right data with the right folks, and you know, basically improve the state of our data estate even further. Okay, hope that was helpful, and have a good one. Cheers, guys.